I'm going to start out the next few pages by punching with this Martha Stewart edge punch one side of a photo mat and then using it to create a photo mat as I've done before. And this is a long video because there's two layouts plus the canvas spine in this video, and then the last video will be of the whole album altogether. So I wanted a gray ribbon, so I'm taking the Weathered Wood Distress Stain and I'm just staining some of my seam binding, and I'm using glue dots on the back of this photo mat to hold the seam binding while I tie the bow around the front, and that'll also keep the bow from shifting up and down and ending up somewhere where I don't want it to be on the page. So I have tied the bow on the front, and now I'm just cutting off my excess seam binding to trim the tails of my bow. And that leaves the front photo mat completely free for a photo to slide underneath. I've used the Nestability eyelet circle, I think, or maybe a lacy circle. It's the lacy circle die, and I've cut that out of gray cardstock, and then I've cut a nesting circle also with a Nestability circle die, and I'm adhering that to my page, and it's going to peek out behind the photo mat I just made with the ribbon. And I'm going to adhere the photo mat with the ribbon to the page with foam tape, and I use the 3M double stick mounting tape, the Scotch double stick mounting tape. And I'm just going to adhere it down here to the page. Now I'm taking some pearls from the Prima E line in light gray and dark gray, and I'm just using small and large pearls. I'm just going to have them kind of floating up the side of the page almost like bubbles. And because I don't always think that the adhesive that's on embellishments is strong enough to hold up over time to mini albums, I'll often go in and glue them down with a liquid glue, which is what I did here. And then I added some butterflies along the side as well. For the next page, I'm going to cut, I cut a photo mat with my label 16, and now I'm tracing around the outside of the edge with a pen to cut a slightly larger mat, and you've seen me do that quite a few times in this book. And I'm using a stamp from Kaisercraft. I believe Chapter 1 is the name of the set, and it's just a large flourish. And I'm decorating the edge of the photo mat with it, and I stamped it in Versamark, and I'm embossing it in clear so that I can do an embossed resist technique. I'm taking the Scattered Straw Distress Ink, which is a really beautiful yellow, goldish yellow, works perfectly with these papers, and I'm rubbing it over the entire photo mat, and you see where it goes over the stamping, that area remains a whiter color. And now I'm just adding some glimmer mist and drying everything. When you spray glimmer mist over an embossed resist, you want to heat it up because it can kind of seep under the edge of it and it makes it look funky. So once it's dry, I'm just adhering it down to the background mat with a liquid glue, and I'm using the Beacon 3-in-1. So I'm weighting it down with these acrylic blocks so that it'll dry pretty much flat. And then I will adhere it to my page and weight it down again. And next I'm going to add some embellishment to this page, and I'm going to do some flowers. I'm going to start with another one of those white flowers from Petaloo. And I'm going to add a metal flower from Prima, and then a small blue flower from Prima right on top, and that pulls in all the colors of my album on this page. And again, I made sure that when I glue this down, I don't glue it in such a way that the photo cannot slide underneath. So now I kind of want a blue butterfly somewhere on the page, so I'm using this one from K & Company, and I'm just going to adhere it there near the top, and I'm going to add a trail with some dark gray pearls, also from Prima, and that just coordinates again with the paper collection. Now I'm working on the next page, and what I've done is I've taken this large sheet of score tape and adhered it to some cardstock and then cut scalloped circles. And now I'm peeling off the score tape's backing and dipping it in some glitter. This is art glitter, and it is the ocean color, and art glitter is a brand. And now I'm just burnishing it with my fingers to get the glitter pieces to lie flat. The flatter they lie, the sparklier they are. And so I did that with several pieces, and I'm going to use it to decorate the edge of a page. And also on the page, I'm going to put another one of those photo mats where one edge has the doily. And again, anytime you repeat a technique throughout an album, it just will make the whole thing come together more. So throughout this album, I used the same doily punch, I used the same butterfly punch, I used the same ink colors for all my stamping. You know, the more you kind of repeat things, the more it all kind of blends together and forms one really cohesive project. So I've stamped a sentiment for this photo mat on some white cardstock and inked the edges in charcoal ink. And then I've cut a photo mat and inked the edges in charcoal ink. I'm going to glue the sentiment centered underneath the photo mat, and then I'm going to trim this whole piece down. So you see, oh, and I cut the doily edge off because I changed my mind about where I was going to put it. I forgot I did that. So I ended up not using the doily edge because I decided to put it on this flap instead of putting it on the actual page itself. So I'm just going to do a little decorating with some gold thread. And now you can see where I'm going to use those little scallop circles. I'm actually going to glue them to the edge of this bag, and so that I don't have to wait and hold each one, I'm clipping them on with bulldog clips. So they're holding the pieces in place while they dry so that I don't have to. And I often will do something like this. If something needs to be held while it dries, I'll try to weight something on top of it or clip it closed so that I don't have to hold it. So I adhered the first three in the center and on either side, and now I'm putting foam adhesive on the remaining two and adhering them so that they slightly overlap the three. And it makes a really pretty sparkly scalloped border for this page. And you'll see it again in a minute. And now what I'm doing is I'm making a matchbook. So what you want to do is you take your pattern paper, and the side that you want, the outside of the matchbook, you want to put that face down. And then to make the match piece, I scored it at 3/8, 7/8, 1 inch. And that gives me this little piece that you kind of roll over on itself. Okay? That's what forms the matchbook piece at the top. And then the other pieces I scored at 1/2 inch. These are the pages. I score them at 1/2 inch. And then I can tape them under the 3/8 inch piece. You'll see what I mean in a second. When I start assembling the whole thing, I put just a little piece of tape on the back of the scored piece of each one. And you can make matchbooks any size and dimension. You just make your folds sort of the exact same way so that you get a 1/2 inch fold at the top like that. So I'm adhering that down, and then I just stack the others right on top. And then once you get to the top, you'll put another piece of tape, and you'll use that for your folded over matchbook piece to hold it down. And then you can just trim the pages to fit your back piece so they're all the same size or so they're slightly shorter, however you want to do it. So here's how the matchbook looks and works. And I didn't record a clear section on how exactly to fold over the edge, but there are a lot of matchbook tutorials on YouTube that you can find. That's where I learned how to do it. So next, I'm going to make a transparency pocket. Very similar to the one I did before, only it's just going to be, you know, it's going to have an opening on the long side instead of an opening on the short side. But other than that, it's exactly the same as the other transparency pocket that was used in the book, including being wrapped around a piece of white cardstock. And again, the reason I wrapped it around a piece of white cardstock like this instead of just folding it into a pocket is because you don't want 2 layers of transparency showing, because that looks really busy. So next I've just cut a photo mat to fit inside the pocket and rounded the 2 bottom edges with my corner rounder and the 2 top edges with my cloud corner chomper. Now I'm taking a blue brad from, I think, Webster's, and I'm putting it through the holes in a Jenny Bolin button to make a pretty layered effect, and then I'm going to glue that whole thing in the center of a bow. And again, that's where I get my layered blue, yellow, and white. And we've consistently had throughout the album layers of blue, yellow, and white. And so I'm just continuing with that. So now I'm adhering that to the top of the photo mat. And it'll slide right in. It looks really pretty sitting there. And then I'm also going to add behind the pocket. I adhered the pocket with foam dots, and so I'm going to slide behind it another photo mat. And because the pocket's adhered with foam dots, you'll still be able to slide another little photo underneath that sits on top of this photo mat, so that when you pull out the tag, there's another photo back there that you can see better. And it's really fun to layer photos and things like that. So now the album itself is done, and we're going to work on the canvas spine. I've cut a piece of sticky back canvas that is the width of the spine plus 3 inches, sorry, plus 3 inches. And I've stamped the sticky back canvas with a map stamp from Impression Obsession. And now I'm spraying the whole canvas with I think jazz blue or turquoise glimmer mist, and then I'm setting it aside to dry. And once it's dry, I'm going to peel it off and adhere it to a piece of just plain printer paper so that it's not sticky anymore. Now I'm going to use this plaque and postage edge stamp to give it a decorative edge, and I'm using the postage side, which looks like a stamp, the edge of a stamp, the perforations of a stamp. And to make sure that my canvas doesn't move around while it's in the machine, I just stick it with some painter's tape. Once that's done, I'm going to make a mark down the center of what will be this area that wraps around the spine, and then I'm going to make a mark 1 inch to either side of that, and that's because my spine is 2 inches. You're going to go off the measurement of whatever your spine is. And then everywhere outside the spine area, I'm going to put red tape. So I'm using a 1/2 inch and a 1/4 inch, because it ends up being about 3/4 of an inch of space to adhere down on either side. And then that area in the middle where I made my measurements, that's going to get covered up with some pattern paper from the collection, so that what people see, if they happen to glance inside your spine, which they won't do anyway, but I know as scrapbookers we want all of it to look pretty, they'll see this pretty gingham checked paper, and that covers all the measurements. And the other measurements will be stuck to the cover, so you won't see them at all. So I've peeled the adhesive off one edge, and I'm going to stick it down. You see here I just line it up and stick it down, and then I'll peel it off the other side and do the same thing, line it up and stick it down. And then once the whole thing is stuck down, I will brayer over that just to make sure that it's really pressed down, or you could use a bone folder or anything. And that completes the spine of the album. So now I'm just going to show you what it looks like, and it makes it look very clean, so you don't see all the edges of the paper bag on the back. And there you see how when you look inside there's that gingham. So now I'm just going to decorate the spine a little more with some seam binding. So I cut off a bunch of seam binding and I'm going to wrap it around the spine 3 times and then tie a bow so that there's a pretty ribbon hanging off the back of the spine to bring some more white onto the spine. And so there you go. That's the finished book. So the next video will be an overview of the entire album so you can see it from cover to cover. Thanks for watching.